am so thrilled to kick off our first keynote speaker. The first time I heard our keynote speaker was back in 2018 at the Sustainable Packaging Coalition conference here in Denver, and I was so blown away by what she had to say. I'm so blown away by what she had to say. Be able to invite her and share her message with you. And she's actually got quite a few updates since I last heard her in 2018. Shannon Moore is the lead packaging engineer at Kellogg and has been leading Kellogg's commitment to move towards 100% recyclable, reusable, or compostable packaging by 2025. For those of you who aren't familiar with that goal, that goal is based on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's New Plastics Economy global commitment, which I think you're going to be hearing about a couple of times today. And Shannon will be talking to us about how they're doing on that journey and the challenges and victories that they've had, and the challenges and victories that they've had, industry's first flexible pouch. So thank you so much for joining us, and excited to hear what Shannon has to say.
Hi, I'm Shannon Moore, lead packaging engineer at the Kellogg Company on our global innovation and nutrition team. And I'm excited to be here today to share our story of collaboration with our external partners to develop a recyclable pouch for Barenaked Granola. But before I do that, I want to thank everyone at the Pet Sustainability Coalition for giving me the opportunity to deliver the keynote for this year's UnPacked 2021. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope that this presentation and this discussion sparks ideas around sustainable packaging for you and your brands. So this is just an overview of what I'm going to cover today. First, I'd like to take you through the brand history and the mission, because the mission and purpose for Barenaked is really important to understand how the collaboration developed with our partners and why it was important for our brand. Secondly, I'll take you through the Recycle Ready project itself and how we worked with our external partners to deliver a more sustainable package. And finally, I'll wrap up with what were some learnings that we've gained over the past year post-launch, and then what we believe is next for us as a company when it comes to sustainable packaging. So this slide really covers where the brand started and what its foundation was. So in 2002, Barenaked was created by Kelly Flatley in her parents' kitchen on a very small budget with a unique artisan soft-baked granola recipe. So her vision was really driven by a passion and a belief that natural and organic food fuels a healthy and active lifestyle. And this is a theme that has been threaded throughout the brand since the beginning and is still part of the brand today. Later, her friend Brendan joined the mission alongside Kelly, and together they redefined granola as we know it today. And one of those ways that they worked to redefine granola was really with the packaging itself. As you can see here, their first package they ever sold was in a bag, and at the time, it's really important to understand that cereal and granola was always in a bag in a box. And so this was something that really differentiated the brand from day one and is really important to the brand overall even today. So speaking of today, here's where we are. So as of today, Barenaked is the #1 granola brand in the category. And as you can see here, I've shared some images of how we've grown as a brand. We've gone from 1 to 2 flavors, all the way to all of the items that you see here. We've launched a seasonal line, a limited edition line, and we also have our premium organic lineup that was launched 2 years ago. So really great food. The brand's grown rapidly. But throughout all of these years of growth, our purpose has really stayed focused on a few key elements. So really, we continue as a brand to redraw the boundaries of granola by showcasing Barenaked as the gold standard for granola, because we are the #1 granola brand. We're really passionate about 3 key core tenets that I've shared here. So the granola is always craveable. It's always crafted with big, delicious ingredients that you can see and smell. We have a window on the package that showcases them. We often call them goodies. We're a clean brand. All of our granola is non-GMO, and we're increasingly organic, like I said, on our premium granola. as we go into the future and really focus on that clean, natural food that is the basis for the brand. And then finally, the last tenet is around being nomadic. So the stand-up pouch really signifies, it's in a format that's for any part of the day and any location. And recently we've added an element to this, calling out the fact that we're developing sustainable packaging. So that's really key for the brand, and I'm really excited that it's part of the brand now. So when you think about developing sustainable packaging and how the brand's grown over the last several years, alongside it, the packaging has really evolved, and the impact can be felt throughout the life of the brand. So this is a really good timeline of where we've been as a brand from a packaging perspective and how certain things have played out in order to support some of the work we've been doing around sustainability. So as I said before, when the brand launched in 2002, it was the first granola brand in a stand-up pouch that was really groundbreaking for the category at the time, and it's been there since day one. Then in 2008, Barenaked joined TerraCycle in a partnership for a take-back program for the bags. So our consumers would collect the bags and send them to TerraCycle, and then they would either get swag or other items for turning in the bags. So it was a really big part of the brand. At the same time, Kellogg acquired Barenaked in 2008 as well, and we continued to grow the brand through the acquisition. And then in 2013, Kellogg's and also Barenaked through Kellogg's joined How to Recycle. And so we started including the on-pack education labels from How to Recycle starting that year. And we continue to be a part of How to Recycle. Then in 2015, the brand really changed the aesthetic and the feel of the packaging. We really went through a premiumization of the entire portfolio. This is about the time that I joined the company, and it was one of the most major graphic updates that had been done to the brand in some time. And then in 2018, Kellogg's joined the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's New Plastics Economy as a signatory. And if you're not familiar with that, we have committed to having 100% recyclable, reusable, or compostable packaging by 2025. And so Kellogg becoming a signatory was really complementary to some of the things that Barenaked was trying to do as a brand as far as developing a more sustainable package. So this was really great to see the company as a whole incorporate this into their sustainability commitments as a company. And then in 2019, Barenaked launched the Recycle Ready pouch with the store drop-off label. So when we talk about designing for recyclability, it really was a collaboration, not just externally, but internally. So when we started to think about what was our mission and our purpose for developing a more sustainable package, there were a lot of key insights and elements that went into this. And really, when we thought about all of these things, we really drove home the point that we had to have a mission. And so our mission was to develop a more sustainable package without compromising on our great tasting food and the premium look and feel for the packaging on the shelf. So what we did is we looked across both, our marketing and consumer engagement and insights, and also further downstream with our supply chain and manufacturing partners to develop what were the key must-haves for the project. And when we looked at consumer insights, we had a lot of data from TerraCycle on what our current consumers were doing with the bags, how many units had been recycled and things like that. And then we also have a really great consumer affairs group. And so we were always receiving consistent feedback on sustainability, whether it be around our ingredients, how we source them, and then also our packaging. And then we also got feedback from consumers around the TerraCycle program. So we had a lot of really great data. The number one thing that we would see over the 3 years before we launched this package was, I really wish you could recycle this bag. in my curbside bin. I really wish you could, you know, it was easier for me to recycle this bag. That, I think those 3 years before we launched were probably the #1 contact we had on the consumer affairs side. So then we tried to look at, you know, externally, what was consumer awareness around recyclable packaging and just sustainable packaging in general. And Nielsen did a really great consumer survey that revealed a lot of data about our key target consumers. So Barenaked's target consumers are Gen Z and millennials. And so when you break it down within consumer subsets within that survey, it was pretty clear over 50% of millennial consumers, which is our biggest target, include sustainability as part of their purchasing intent. And that can be anything from sourcing, from on-pack information, and from the packaging itself. And then, you know, if you look at consumers, regardless of income, age, 80 to 90% of consumers expect brands and CPGs to increase the recyclability of their packaging. So it was a clear expectation. Consumers were looking for this. This was a need, not just within our subset of consumers, but within, like, outside of our consumer range. Then, you know, taking that data and building what would be our metrics for the project. You know, when we look at our marketing team and, you know, our quality, food safety and supply chain team, you know, we really wanted to deliver something that had no noticeable pack differences to the consumer. So when you pick it up on shelf, it looks identical to what it looks like today. And this is what our consumers expect. Then, you know, on shelf, it has the same look and feel. We use a lot of premium textures and print to deliver that premium expectation around this granola. And then from a quality standpoint, we had to meet our current shelf life targets. So our food has about a 9 to 12 month shelf life. This was really important for us to keep and maintain this shelf life because we didn't want to impact the food to the point where we were potentially creating a food waste issue. We didn't want to reduce our shelf life. So and then the other remaining key element was around production. So at our manufacturing facility, we wanted to have minimal or no impact to production efficiencies, which is quite a high bar to pass considering what went into the material development. So when we started the project, we were kind of in what I would call a traditional development model. So, you know, we have partner relationships, you know, either through supply chain or our suppliers on packaging where, you know, our marketing team or myself, a packaging engineer would go to our supplier and say, hey, we're trying to develop this, you know, more sustainable package. You know, what do you have in your wheelhouse? From a development standpoint, what can we do to test and deliver a sustainable package? However, it was pretty clear after several months that that sort of development model wasn't going to work for us. We tested about 2 to 3 times, and every single time we would see similar issues. We'd have material failures on the line. We had a really difficult time running and packing food, which was really, you know, a key for us to be able to assess the shelf life of the food. And then, you know, overall, we had a loss of development time in the project, which was really hard for me personally to go back to our leadership internally and say, hey, you know, we've experienced another loss in time and money and we got to go back to the drawing board. So after that point, we all kind of took a step back on the team and said, okay, what needs to change for this to work? Like, what are we missing? So we went through and did a deep dive analysis of like what were we seeing? What were some things that needed to change? And in that time period, I worked internally at Kellogg. They have a team that is focused on strategic partnerships. So when it comes to breakthrough innovation on food or packaging, we have strategic partners that are external that can help us solve these issues and work with us. So that's when we brought in Dow and some of their partners to help assess the landscape, like what were we doing and what needed to change and what are some solutions that they could help us work through. So this bottom part here, the end-to-end development model, is really where we ended up. And it's really taking a project from beginning to end, like what design elements do I want to have, and how do I get to this package, working with every single partner in the value chain. So this was really key for us as a brand. And so this is an overview of what that collaboration looked like in practice on this project. Like, really, we delivered on all success metrics here. So those 4 elements that I shared with you before, we really hit on all cylinders for this. So whether it be, the new zipper technology we ended up developing with Presto to help deliver the hermetic seals we needed in order for the food to maintain its shelf life, or the printing that was delivered by Color Masters to really showcase the brand as we always have, and then keep the window on the package, keep the elements that were really key to the brand's equity and history, but at the same time deliver the right production speeds and the recyclability piece that is so key to this project. And I really think that if we didn't have all these partners, we would have never succeeded. And so it's really important to understand that open innovation and working with partners all across the value chain, like I said, is really important here. It took us roughly 18 months from beginning to end in this partnership to fully launch, which is pretty quick when you think about working on a package like this, particularly when there's so many elements to cover. So here it is 1 year later, and I would love to share these learnings with you. So one of the things we realized as we went into launch was, this was a habit change, and we had consumers that were aware, but we needed to do education around what's changing and how that works. And I think today that continues to be something that's key when it comes to, really getting consumers to understand what you're trying to do, and also driving clear messaging of what you're supposed to do with the package after you're done using it. So I do have an image shared in here where we did a lot of activity through Instagram as a brand, where we would have people show how to recycle the bag. So learning by doing, and showing people how it worked, and having that visual and showing people how to be engaged and how it worked was really helpful for us. We also included information on our website around what is the store drop-off program, where can you go. We provided links on our website. Barenaked as a brand is very social media focused. So that's where a lot of the followers and a lot of consumers were looking for that data. So that was really helpful to them. And then working with our consumer affairs group, we started to get feedback on the package as it rolled out. We've seen mostly positive feedback from our consumers about the change. We still get a lot of calls about how to recycle the package, and we work with our media team to improve the consumer education piece. And then really for us, one thing that was a key standout is a few months ago, we got a comment verbatim here that I wanted to share with you guys. Basically, the responses we're seeing are around, I feel good about buying this product. I'm really excited that you can drop this off in store drop-off now. I tell all my friends about it. And so that's really important to us as a brand, to get that feedback and understand, what's working, what can we improve on, and how does this feedback and how do we incorporate it into our packaging sustainability strategy going forward. And then finally, the other piece around learnings is collaborative partnerships, as I said, are of high importance, especially, around the material development piece that I shared. But also, you got to think about it in more than one way. Not only are you working with your suppliers to help them understand, sustainability is a key part of our strategy. This includes packaging. How does your strategy work with our strategy to move forward and deliver solutions around sustainable packaging? And then on the retailer side, a lot of retailers have their own sustainability commitments. I mean, some of them, the larger retailers, they are also Ellen MacArthur Foundation signatories. they also are part of different industry collaboratives, and they have their own corporate sustainability targets and commitments. Working collaboratively, you can support, say, their store drop-off program. Many of the major retailers have them, but also around, how your packaging and how your brand is helping support those corporate sustainability commitments and helping them deliver on their goals. So that's another really important piece that we learned throughout the launch. And then finally, consortiums. So we were able to, with this launch, understand and learn from other brands and learn about collaboratives within the industry on, improving infrastructure and supporting recyclability of packaging. So that's a really nice segue into what's next for us as a brand and as Kellogg's as a whole. So as far as that collaboration piece from an industry perspective, we continue to be an active member in the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. And if you're not a part of it, I encourage you to reach out to them, especially with the How to Recycle labeling program, because it's really important to have that information on pack, because it's really confusing to consumers if you don't clearly call out what to do with the package afterwards, and we don't want to drive confusion. And then the other piece is we recently joined the Recycling Partnership, which is a really great organization, and there's a lot of things we've learned as a brand and as a company around what it's going to take for the infrastructure to improve in the United States and how we can support that as a brand and as a company. So in addition to that, the technology we co-developed with Dow and our external partners, we've really focused on expanding that into other brands and thinking about within Kellogg, where could we utilize this technology and help us internally support our corporate sustainable packaging commitments, going back to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that I mentioned before. So we recently launched a few items in the last couple months that I wanted to highlight here. So we have large size pillow bags for our cereal brands. We recently launched a store drop-off bag in Walmart last month. And then at the end of last year, we have our snacks brands, Pop-Tarts Bites and Nutri-Grain Bites. They're in stand-up pouches in the convenience channel, and we launched those in a store drop-off pouch as well. So we continue to look at how we can work with our partners on different brands, not just in North America, but globally, as Kellogg is a global brand. And we're really looking to partner outside the company to help support that, because we want to support the proliferation of recyclable packaging and more sustainable packaging wherever we can. So again, thank you so much for having me today. If we have time at the end of this, I'd really love to get your feedback and questions. And you can link up with me on LinkedIn. I'm definitely available to answer questions. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Shannon. It's so lovely to see you again since we connected at the SPC conference a few years ago. That was a wonderful talk. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I love the background, by the way. That is glorious. So all of our attendees, you've got that chat feature. Make sure that you're jumping in that chat feature with any questions that you have for Shannon. We also have a poll going on asking about your internal sustainability goals. But to kick it off, Shannon, I'd love to ask, so this is a great success story within Barenaked, but as you are trying to build momentum across kind of the Kellogg portfolio of brands, what are you finding is kind of the most successful argument? Is it that our customers really want us, or is it the cost, or how are you really building that case?
I think it's more of a combination. So we do have some brands within Kellogg where their consumers are also very focused on sustainability and what they can do as a brand to support our company goals. And then back to what you were saying, in some parts of our company, since we are global, we do have retailer pressure. So we do have retailers that are looking to us to be that guiding light, to be that initiator of the conversation. A good example would be we have a partnership with Tesco in the UK right now around our Pringles brand. And how can we work together to support both Tesco's sustainability goals as a company and our commitments as a company, as well as the Ellen MacArthur commitment we've made previously?
Great. Well, thank you, Shannon. You touched on something that I wanted to ask you just then. You're working with several different organizations, whether that's the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the Recycling Partnerships, the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, all of which, by the way, we have speaking today. So I think this might be a great minds think alike kind of situation. But as you are kind of identifying partners to work with and seeking collaboration, what is your process for kind of building those relationships and deciding which direction to go?
That's a really great question, because that was a challenge in the beginning. How do we make the right decisions and partner with the right people? So a lot of the work we went into is evaluating, who are our existing suppliers? Do they have the same goals as us? That was a really big indicator to us on who we should work with. Are they also part of some of the commitments we've made? Do they also support the Sustainable Packaging Coalition? And what are they doing from a technology and sustainability standpoint to support efforts against either, like I said, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, or just having a corporate sustainability objective in general was really key to us, because we knew we were on the same page, we were starting from the same point, and they had the same end goal as we did. So that's I think really key when you're looking, especially as a smaller brand, because I'll be honest, I was pretty overwhelmed in the beginning, because I was like, who do I start with? Where do I go? Who can help connect me? And, some of our external partners like Dow and, the Recycling Partnership and the SPC, we gained a lot of knowledge from them. Like, what is it? What is a recyclable package? What is the infrastructure? Who can we connect with? Because it is overwhelming. There's so many entities, there's so many suppliers. And every day I felt like I was getting a barrage of, hey, look at this new technology. And it was like, how do I make the right choice? So really, evaluating your supply chain, either what you already have or looking externally. And then any partners that you have externally, how they can help support you in your initiatives. Like the Recycling Partnership, for example, I've had lots of questions since we've joined a year ago about what other challenges we have as a business and a company, and they've been able to point me in the right direction to help me make those decisions.
That's great. Well, I could pick Shannon's mind all morning here, but I'm sure our audience has lots of questions as well. Caitlin, what's coming in the chat box?
Thanks so much, Melissa. We've got a ton of questions coming in. Thanks so much, everyone, for participating. You can continue to enter those questions in the chat box and we'll read it. I'm going to start today with reviewing the poll. So the poll question was, Kellogg really talked about having an internal sustainability goal along with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation of moving 100% of their packaging to either reusable, compostable, or recyclable. So curious for attendees today, does your company have a goal like that? Something internal that says, here's a target and we want to reach it by, say, 2025. So I'm just looking at those poll results coming in, and it looks like the majority winner is no. So we've got about 58% of attendees say they don't have a sustainable packaging goal yet, and about 42% say that they do. So still really great. Oh, that number's climbing now. Still really great to see that people do have some goals out there that they're achieving. So really appreciate getting that perspective from our attendees today. And along that line, Shannon, just some questions for you. So, within that goal, there are 3 directions you could go. You could go the reusable route. You could go the compostable route. You could go the recyclable route. Can you talk us a little bit about, why did you choose recyclable of all the options?
So when you're looking at where to play, it's important to understand, like, where are you selling? What does the supply chain look like? For some of our products, we're selling in a food service environment. So maybe compostable is the best place to play there because of the way the food service industry disposes of their products. When we look at reusability, it's, again, it's where are we selling it? Is it in a store? Do they have a bulk section? Things like that. And that goes back to kind of like the partnership piece I talk about with the retailers. What do they really want to see? And then I think another element is around the infrastructure. So some of the reasons why we chose recyclable for Barenaked is when we were looking at different technologies, we were trying to understand what is the best infrastructure for this product? Where do bags typically go now after consumers use them? And how can we focus on that as a material development guide? And then the other piece is, in some cases, honestly, some technologies don't work with the product. So we needed extremely high barrier from a moisture and an oxygen perspective for this food. And some of the technologies that were beyond recyclability really did not work for the food. We did assess them, and we had to make a decision to say, you know what, based on the infrastructure that's currently existing, what's most available and widely accessible to consumers, this is the best choice for our product and our consumers. So you really got to think about all those different elements when you're looking at that. And I would say, as a company, while this product launched as recyclable, it's also dependent, if you're a global company, on what's available in that region. So like we have business in Asia, they don't have a recycling infrastructure. So there's different ways and angles you can look at it, but it's really important to kind of understand, what is the end of life for a product? Where are you selling it to help drive some of those decisions?
All right, thanks so much for that response. And I think that's one element is, as a brand, what can we do? How do we navigate our path? But I think, one of the things you talked about was some of the consumer behavior by Nielsen, which was really super interesting. Thanks for sharing that. We did have a question come in from an audience member around behavior change and how you might work with the recycling partnership or others to really educate consumers. So at the end of the day, we can all move to recyclable packaging, which is one of the primary goals that we're focused on as well here at PSC. But we have to have consumers that participate in that. And the participation rate in the United States is pretty low for store take-back programs. So I'm curious to learn from you, are you working with consumers on any other kind of behavior change, programming or campaigns to really encourage more participation from them?
Yes. So when we launched Barenaked, an example I'll use is we initiated the Recycle Challenge with Dow, and it addressed, hey, do you even know about the store drop-off program? Because a lot of the data that we discovered was that consumers didn't even know they could drop off this stuff. So let's start with what exists and educating consumers. And so I did videos myself. We had our corporate communications team launch information on the Kellogg website, and we talked through what is the store drop-off program, what products can you take back, how does it work? And we continue to work with our corporate comms group to help with that, because really it is a habit change. And the ideal situation would be able to have everybody go to store drop off, but in some cases there's access issues. So using that how to recycle label is one piece, but also us as a company doing the due diligence to continue to educate consumers and get them engaged. Because yes, I think a lot of it is around awareness. And even in your own communities, like people really understanding where they can recycle products and how many things they can do. So like on the Barenaked website, we have the link to the actual store drop-off program. So it shows not only what you can recycle as in Barenaked pouches, but also all the other things that you can recycle. Because a lot of the feedback we got in addition to Barenaked is, wow, I had no idea that you could even take this stuff back. And then, even things like, oh, I had no idea toilet paper wrap, you can take it back to the store. Or, I thought you just had to throw it away. So a lot of it is like, I don't know where to put this, and I want it to be easy. I think those are the two key core issues that we need to continue to talk about. And it's not like cut or dry, oh, we did a store drop-off pouch and that's it. We're really looking at beyond that. Like, what does it look like if you had curbside film recyclable? Because I'll be honest, some of the comments we've gotten now as a brand is, great, this is store drop off. When can I put it in my curbside bin?
All right. Well, thanks for that response. I think along the same lines, I'm curious, as a participant in the How to Recycle labeling program, which again, standardized labeling, we agree, is super important, and one of the streamlined solutions we're hoping to move the industry toward. But I know it's on the back of packaging as well. So I'm curious, do you get tracking through that system? So can you tell how many of your customers are participating so that you might be able to tweak or change your behavior change programs or your social media strategies to see, is that working? So do you get data back that gives you that indicator?
Yeah, so I already mentioned what we do internally with consumer affairs, because we do speak to the how to recycle program when we get contacts, but also How to Recycle has a lot of really great data they share. Right now, there's an access study going on, as I understand it, and they provide that data, and there's a lot of great resources on their website about what they've done. And it includes that data like collection rates, things like that, to really understand, okay, where has the labeling been? What have we done to increase recycling? They've got a lot of really great information. And then the recycling partnership, being about a year into the membership, they do a lot of studies around this. What is the landscape, like you mentioned before, around the collection rate for store drop-off? Like, what is that? Where do we see it? Is it different in different parts of the United States? How can we, and using that data to kind of drive decision making around, like, where can we do better? What consumer behaviors are different in different parts of the world or the United States? And using that data to make decisions. Because honestly, in this, trying to move forward, as a company, we want to understand what other people are doing and how we can support the consumer behaviors and the awareness. So yeah, both those organizations have a lot of valuable data and a lot of research that they put forth. So I encourage you, if you get a chance to join either of them, that'll help you a lot. Because for us, before we joined these organizations, it was kind of a black hole. Like, I don't need, what's the best way to communicate to consumers? And they had a lot of data already that says, okay, here's what works and what may not.
All right. So one more consumer-related question, because we've got some questions around design and cost of this decision for your company as well. But you mentioned that of your kind of 8 different goals that you had with this project, that you really weren't going to compromise on any of them. And I'm so amazed that it only took you 18 months to actually reach this, and you were able to hit all of those 8 buckets within your goal. So what I'm curious about is, one of them was, we don't want to lose anything around the inks or dyes or touch and feel of the bag, because we feel like that would have a negative impact on consumers. So one of our attendees asked, whether or not that's an assumption. Are we assuming that consumers respond very badly to packaging changes? Or is it an opportunity, when you see a look and a feel change, to call it out right on the front of the bag that says, hey, new recyclable packaging, or some way to kind of understand whether or not that's just an assumed response from consumers, or if there's really evidence to say, hey, you mentioned 50% of consumers now want to see sustainability and are making purchasing preferences, purchasing choices aligned with those preferences, but there's still this component of, well, they don't want a lesser consumer experience of that package. So how do you manage those two things? Is there real data behind it? Tell me more about that.
So I would say, from a data perspective on this particular brand, we did have data. So Barenaked is a premium brand, and our consumers expect to have that premium look and feel. We did have data around that from a consumer research perspective. So I think you need to look at it in a couple different ways. So one, do you have the data on your particular product to say that this is an attribute you have to keep? And to the second point around using it as an opportunity to educate consumers about what you're doing, yes, definitely. That's another way to look at it. So if we think about Kellogg Company more broadly, every brand and every category that we sell food in, all of our brands have a lot of different perspectives on what they expect, and it may not be premium packaging. So that's definitely something we're looking at. We have a couple different work streams we have currently where we're talking about that. Can we tell a story if we know it's going to look different, and we know that that's important? So if you look at some of our brands like Pop-Tarts, it's in a foil wrapper. That's something that's not considered recyclable right now. But when you look at their consumers, their consumers are really interested in sustainability. And so that may be an opportunity to say, okay, what if we can't do something that looks like what Pop-Tarts does now? How do we tell the story and educate consumers? Hey, this does look different, and here's why. I think that those are both viable options for you. But yeah, it really goes back to looking at what consumer research you have and what your consumers for that brand really want. And I think that there's not like a wrong way to do it. I think that, yeah, it's really key to educating consumers both in the packaging standpoint, if you do have to make a visual change, and then like we did on Barenaked, trying to hit all those targets. And I think it's a two-way conversation with marketing. I think my marketing team learned a lot from this, and so did I. So I learned more about the commercial aspect and what they've seen from an insights perspective, and they learned about like what can and can't be done. Because I think, getting those people grounded in reality of like what can actually be done is really going to help them develop a story. So if you can't do something that's premium, you guys have a really solid story around why you're doing what you're doing and why it should be important to a consumer.
All right, well, we've got about 10 minutes left of the Q&A today, so I'm going to switch to the technical side a bit and ask some different style questions. So there's a couple things coming in from our attendees about cost. So one that's been noted is, sure, Barenaked used to be a small brand, but now owned by Kellogg. You've got some deep pockets in order to fund this kind of innovative research. And so we're curious to learn from you. We serve as an organization big brands, but we also serve medium and small size brands. So for medium or small brands who are looking to make these changes, do you feel like what was the cost to really innovate in this area? How much was off the shelf and was ready to go versus how much you had to front as a brand for the research and development and innovation process? Or is that something your partners really came together to co-fund in order to move this forward?
So I would say it's a little bit of each. So yes, Kellogg, they did support this, but when we looked at our partners, they really came to the table to help us because, yeah, if you look at Kellogg as a whole, Barenaked, from the scope of larger brands like Special K, Frosted Flakes, those are very large brands. And Barenaked is small if you look at that from those brands' perspective. So our partners were really willing to work with us. They knew that cost was an issue for us. And, initially, we did look at commercially developed options. And the issue with that was, like I said, we didn't have the ability to pack food and we couldn't get the shelf life we wanted. So yes, there was some stuff that was a little off the shelf, but then we had a lot of work around the breakthrough technology. But I think that partnership and collaboration and really having them understand, like, we're a small brand in the scope of Kellogg, we really need support here. We really want to do this. How can we work together? And they really came to the table to do that.
So around the cost portion of this, so a certain percentage, like sure, there's the cost for the innovation and working together with all these partners to get to this solution, but now you have a cost that you're paying per bag as well. So I'm curious, when you evaluate, hey, here's the impact that we've made as a leader in this space and across this product category to really be one of the first to break through with this technology. Here's what we're hearing from our customers and how we're evaluating what the win was on the consumer side. Do you feel like they have balanced each other out, or are you still having to kind of financially defend the choices that you're making because of that increased cost?
I would say in the beginning of the work stream and the development, initially I would say that we were having to do a lot of sell-in to say, yeah, this is going to be at a premium, but here's some data around what this means in the marketplace for us and driving sales. But, working with our partners, we were really able to optimize the material over time. And I want people to remember that. Like, there is no hard and fast when it comes to developing this and looking at the cost. There were some things we also did around looking across the entire portfolio, so that we were doing things in Barenaked on the food that was helping balance out the cost. So you want to look at things like that. That's actually been a win for us across the company, is what are we doing outside of packaging that can help leverage and support this technology? So where can we pool our money where we know we have this commitment, but there's other things we're doing either on the food or in supply chain to optimize, where we can take that and put that into this development and be able to support it. So for us, the cost was parity by the time we got through the entire project. And some of our food, we were doing optimization already, and we were able to go to our food team and say, hey, you guys have done some optimization. Can we take the savings from that and put it into this? So there's different conversations you can have. And like I said, there's no hard or fast discussion or how it's supposed to go. Because honestly, in the beginning, the first question was always, well, what's the cost? I don't want to pay more. And it's like us as packaging and technical experts need to talk through like what we can and can't do and why it's important. So you really got to get that buy-in, and you really got to talk about the entire brand and what you're doing from an innovation perspective to support that. So I would say in each case, we've had discussions across the company. It's different depending on where you're at and what they're trying to do.
Well, I love the idea of taking savings from other sustainability wins where you've had, financial savings from those, and then really reinvesting it into other areas of your sustainability program. Because I think the further and further you get into sustainability, you have to start making some choices that will pay out in the long term, but have some upfront costs. So I know Melissa and our entire project team have worked with a lot of our member companies, because when you're in those early stages and you're doing things like efficiency improvement, you should be cataloging those financial savings and really making an agreement within the company to say, hey, a percentage of these savings will be available to our sustainability team, so we can use those as investments as we get further and further down the road for sustainability. So really appreciate that perspective. So a little bit of a more personal question, which is, I think you joined the team. They may have already been purchased by Kellogg at the time, but I believe originally your goal was really just to work with the Barenaked team. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about navigating, the Barenaked space and having the culture of kind of a smaller brand within a much larger company. And what was it like trying to navigate between or build bridges between those two things? And then the follow-up, or the second part of that question, is really, your title has changed in the last year. So I'd love to learn kind of what you see next, the team that you're sitting on now, and how you might continue to build off the successes you've had.
So in reference to the first question, it was really a balance in the beginning. When I joined the team, they were growing. I was only the second person in packaging they had hired. They had never really had a dedicated person to their brand. So not only was I supporting the Barenaked brand, but also all of our other natural and organic brands. So Kashi, you guys are probably very familiar with, and then Pure Organic, which we acquired probably a little bit after I joined. So it was not only trying to navigate, oh my gosh, we're like the little fish in the big pond, but also building those relationships to like get that buy-in. Like I said, we operated pretty independently. So like we were allowed to do what we needed to and work within our own space. But there was always, we could turn and say, Kellogg, we have this need. We really want to support this. Because if you look at our overall company as a whole, the natural and organic space for us is really considered the tip of the spear. So anything that Kellogg really wants to test and learn out loud about, we're really that place. We're that playground, I guess you could say. We operate like a startup. So really trying to get our partners on board internally, like our procurement team, they're Kellogg focused, trying to get them to understand why this is a win for us, why this is important to us, and having that company commitment as we were working on this project. to join the Ellen MacArthur Foundation New Plastics Economy was really pivotal, because we said, here's the foundational work we've done, and you guys have supported this. This is how you can continue to support us. So really, I would say, if you're in a situation where you're the smaller brand, but you're connected to a much larger company, I would say, really getting with the key players, both, we have people in our supply chain team within Barenaked, but there's also the same people in procurement and supply chain within Kellogg, really getting their buy-in, because those are the people that are going to be dictating whether things go the way you want them to. So really, it's about being passionate enough and believing enough to get them to have buy-in. It's really critical to get that buy-in, honestly. Like, some of the conversations I had with Kellogg leadership is like, why should we do this? Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Simon Sinek, but he says a lot about how you can engage people, and how to really drive passion and belief within your team. And one thing he says is, you really got to make your why their why. And that's really like, hey, we're Barenaked, we have this idea, we want to move forward with it, and this is why it's important to Kellogg. This is how we support your initiatives. And that's a story that you can carry to your retailers. Like, when we went to our retailers and said, hey, we have this really great pouch we're coming out with, we see that you have sustainability commitments, that's something that we can connect on and support. And then, as far as your second question, yes, I have moved. I've moved into a global role, and so what we've done as part of our joining as a signatory to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is we have a fully dedicated team globally that is focused solely on sustainable packaging. And I think that the companies identified that as one of their key strategies, and they needed to have people focus solely on that. So I joined that team in the beginning of last year, and I'm focused on one, expanding the technology beyond Barenaked. That's really key to support our brands and our people worldwide. And then we're also looking at a wide variety of technologies from a front-end innovation piece, because if you think about, smaller brands, they only have one or two people. They're really focused on delivering the innovation they have, and it's really hard to try to focus on sustainability in some sort of percentage of your time when you're trying to deliver innovation. So we're here to help support our teams. So I've gone from being the person on the small brand getting support to the person supporting. So it's been a really great journey for me personally. And we've had a lot of really great engagement and project work with all of our regions globally. And for me personally, I've learned a lot about sustainability and our brands globally during this opportunity. So it's been really great to be able to do some personal development, but also help support the company initiatives.
Shannon, I just want to give you a big thank you from our whole team, but also the attendees today. Big brands make a big difference when it comes to learning from your processes and really being fast followers on some of the innovation that you've put forward in the natural food space.